Yesterday on this program, we had a guest who until recently was a practicing lawyer. And in the course of our interaction with him, he expressed disappointment at what he called the docile and compromising disposition of the Nigerian Bar Association towards the serial abuse of the rule of law and Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by successive administrations in the past 20 years. Part of the problem, he said, is the continued dominance of the association's leadership by lawyers of the Senior Advocate of Nigeria category. This, to him, has to change for the Nigerian Bar Association to begin to reassert itself in terms of bringing the government and politicians to account, instead of the willing partner role it has been playing. Tomorrow, the Nigerian Bar Association will be electing a new president to pilot its affairs at a very interesting period in the political development of Nigeria. Should it be more of the same in terms of the leadership it has had, or is this the right time to concede to the younger generation of lawyers? For a wider conversation on this, we're now being joined by Chief Robert Clarke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and an attorney of more than 50 years practice under his belt. We'll also be talking to him about other matters of national importance. Good morning, sir.
I'm definitely with you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, quickly, in my introduction, talked about the NBA election. But of course, the NBA election is not tomorrow. It's still later in the month. But it's a very important issue for both the inner and the outer bar. But first, I would like to have your thoughts on what's happening with the EFCC and the ongoing investigation of Ibrahim Mago, the erstwhile, as it were, chairman of the EFCC. Yeah. What is the significance of what is happening? Is this a plus for the Buhari administration, or it is some kind of damage to the administration's much vaunted anti-corruption campaign?
Well, you have to look at it from which divide you are talking from. If you are pro-Buhari, you see it from a different angle from someone who is not pro-Buhari. I can understand what my other colleagues have been saying, that how can the chief legal officer of the federal government of Nigeria, who is the Attorney General, be writing a petition against someone who is under him, and he is not taking the position of inquiring himself, but rather allowing the presidency to do so. That is one question. The other question is that if the government can be seen to carry his master, crime buster to the situation where he finds himself today, then one must give kudos to that government that they are doing internal cleaning, and they are not just talking the talk, but they are walking with the talk. So I am looking at it from both angles. One, that it is not neat for the Attorney General to be writing a petition against somebody whom he's supposed to have supervised. It means there's a lacuna, or there is a gap between the Attorney General and Magu, because if there is no gap, it would not have allowed for such a situation to arise. That is a minus for the government, because it is too late after 5.5 years for you to now say you are looking into allegations made by the supervising minister. What has he been doing for the past 5 years? So for that, that's a minus. But the plus for the government is clear. If at this stage, the government can ask the chief crime buster to be placed on a table to be asking, receiving questions for his acts within the past 5 years, then you give the government kudos. They are not sweeping it under the carpet. They are making it public, and fortunately they have appointed a chairman of that committee who is a renowned jurist, a retired president of the Court of Appeal, and I'm sure justice will be done at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can we talk about our system, or supposed system of checks and balances? Whereas the president is to nominate an EFCC chairman, the National Assembly is to confirm him. The National Assembly refused to confirm Mr. Magu twice, and yet he's still acting. There is a court order that allows him to do so, so that means all three arms of government have gotten involved at this point. What do you make of that situation? And going forward, once a nomination has been rejected, should that be the end of the road?
You see, when the National Assembly rejected a nominee of the federal government, you have to have it clear in your mind that the final whistle or the final blow about appointments still rests with the executive. Section 4 or 5 of the Constitution says all executive powers are vested in Mr. President. So if Mr. President sends a nominee and the National Assembly refuses to approve it, he can always ask him to be there on an acting appointment, which they have done. And it's not a new thing. I remember in America when Bush was the president, Bolton, the man who is now writing things about, he was allowed to be, on an acting appointment as the U.S. representative in the United Nations. So the law allows it, so far it is on an acting appointment.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I want to talk about other names mentioned in this allegation. The name of the vice president, allegedly, was said to have received some money from Magu. Also, the twist of Abdulsalami Abubakar's house been searched. That's the former head of state of the country. What's your take on that?
As a lawyer, I will hesitate to make comments on these two areas of allegation because they are mere allegations as of now. And as a lawyer, I have been trained to listen to the other side. Since I am not privileged now to know what the other side is talking about, it will be foolhardy for me to take a decision on those allegations. I treat those two allegations as allegations, and until proven, it stands as an allegation. Thank you very much.
Well, Chief, let's talk about the bar. The bar, there's a lot of politicking going on right now. And there seems to be a wide gulf between young lawyers and the Silk. Now, what's your take on the coming NBA presidential election? And how do you think that the bar can ensure unity between the inner bar and the outer bar? And I say this in the context of the recent communication by Awomolo SAN, where he was defending the interests of senior advocates as against the interests of young lawyers in the context of the presidential election that will take place this month.
Yeah. Number one, the gentleman who feels senior advocates should be given preference over ordinary lawyers. I don't accept that. You see, there are many good young lawyers who are not senior advocates. And there are many senior advocates who are not good lawyers. So that should not be the dichotomy upon which you will now say, if you are not a senior advocate, then you cannot rise to that situation. I don't agree. But let me be clear. The Bar Association has not proven itself for the past 1 year in helping the association in any manner. And I can understand why. You know that the president of the Bar Association was being charged to court for some malpractices. That must have stifled, and it's my opinion though, it must have stifled him from raising any big, loud noise against the government. But what I will say is this. At the moment, I have looked at all the people who are vying for this post. I am excited about one particular candidate who has a background of mature and reasonable aggression against injustice. I don't want to not want to put his name up here, but I can tell you that that particular person whom I have recommended is surely capable to hold that position because he has held so many posts within the Bar Association, especially as the General Secretary of the Bar Association, and he is capable of enforcing the rights of the lawyers in whatever circumstances they find themselves.
Will you be talking about the additional SAN, sir? Additional SAN?
I don't want to be part of the debate. I don't want to be part of the debate on this. I leave you to make up your mind. You see what I mean? But I am not neither here or there. But I'm talking to you about my personal opinion.
Well, thank you, sir. And I agree with the point that you made, incidentally. It's not the question, it's just a comment. One of the most prolific NBA presidents in the history of the NBA was the late, great Alao Akabashoro, and he wasn't a SAN. So the whole SAN, that argument of in and outer bar, for me, is neither here nor there. What is more important, though, is the work of the NBA. A lot of people feel that the NBA lost credibility in 2018 when the president addressed a room full of lawyers and said that national interest overrides the rule of law. So applause at the time. Later, statements were made. But what are your thoughts on that and how NBA can restore its credibility?
As I said, the head of the Bar Association during this period was being, clamped down by certain circumstances. You will have you know that he was being charged before a federal high court for some criminal offenses. And maybe, I'm not saying it is the reason why the Bar Association has not been able to perform in many other ways. But you can use that as the basis for non-performance. But what I can tell you is this: that statement that the rule of law will, when security issue arises, then the rule of law steps aside. No. It is not a correct statement, and I don't think Mr. President meant it that way. I am not his lawyer, but I can assure you that that will be the last statement to be made by a Democrat, because the rule of law is so sacrosanct. The rule of law is the basis of governance. The rule of law is the acceptability of law itself. So any leader who now says that the rule of law must give way to security, is not speaking for the masses of the people. But I think, and I know that in certain circumstances, for instance, we see what is happening in America today. Trump is claiming immunity from submitting his tax papers, and the Supreme Court says no. Every citizen of America.
Hello, Chief Clarke, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you.
Okay, we can hear you now. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief Clerk, somebody was here yesterday, a lawyer was here.
Yes.
Dele Farotimi, and he said a lot about the NBA. He talked about the docility of the NBA in the face of disrespect and assault on the rule of law in the country, that the NBA doesn't come out to say anything about it. He talked about our courts, his words, not mine, his words. Talked about our courts not being better than a brothel. With all of this, a lawyer has said, what's your reaction to this? And what's your reaction to the state of our court and the role of advocacy that the NBA should have?
Well, it's unfortunate. As I said, if the head is rotting in an organization, definitely it will permeate the whole strata of that organization. I have told you that the Bar Association was in a dilemma because the president of the Bar Association was being charged to court by the executive. That might have accounted for all these lapses you are seeing. I can assure you that these lapses will be taken up now, that we are going to have a president that will be devoid of any character assassination, that can be devoid of any fear or intimidated by any fear of prosecution. And I can assure you that Nigeria will now benefit a lot from this Bar Association period than the last one.
Well, Chief Clarke, what will be your agenda, your priorities, if you may define it, for the next NBA president, particularly with regard to the concern of young lawyers, who are a major factor in this forthcoming NBA presidential election? Young lawyers, for example, complain about welfare. that in Aba, when they recruit them, they just pay them pittance. And then again, they have an issue with the curriculum from adjectival law that is taught in faculties of law to procedural law. I mean, they have a crisis with the curriculum. How would their interests, how should their interests be addressed?
Well, it is very unfortunate that the development of legal practice in Nigeria has not evolved under the auspices of partnership. If I may count on my fingertips how many partnerships exist in the bar now, you will be surprised that they are not up to 10. Now, in foreign countries, this partnership, some of them have been existing for 100 years. So when young lawyers go into such chambers, they know that after a period of time, they are going to be made partners. So if that incentive is there, they are not working for money because the chambers does not pay wages. We don't pay salaries. We only pay what you call stipend. A lawyer cannot earn, wages, but we carefully disguise it as stipend. I am aware that many young lawyers are not happy, but you see the problem is the period of tutelage they are going after. A young lawyer that works in a recognized chamber will benefit more from a lawyer who refuses to go into chambers, decides to do what you call charge and bail, and is making more money, even double or triple the money a young lawyer who has gone to chambers. But the difference between both of them will be clear after 5 years. After 5 years, a young lawyer in chambers will have had so much experience, expertise in all, depending on the chambers he's attached to, in all aspects of the law. And the lawyer who is going on charge and bail may continue for the next 10 years doing the same thing. So the difference is clear. So what they are foregoing in terms of salary or wages, as they call it, the experience they are gaining through this period is enough for them for the rest of their lives. So I don't say that there are no discrepancies in the payment of stipends, but it depends on which chambers you are in.
Yeah, but I also asked a question about what should be the agenda, the priorities of the next president of the NBA.
Well, the priorities are always very clear: to defend the association as and when incidents do occur, to have as a priority the welfare of members of the association, and to push forward any ideas that will help the government in governance, and to attack the government where it finds the government is not following the rule of law or is not following and is following an agenda that is inimical to the people of Nigeria. So I look forward to an association that will fight for the rights of common man in Nigeria, will security of the rule of law, and will ensure that the lawyers are behind him in fighting on these issues. Period.
Thank you, sir. Well, as we all see the rancorous atmosphere in the build-up to the Edo and Ondo state elections, it's quite sad to observe some of the same with regards to the NBA elections, and allegations already of the voter list being inflated, allegations of rigging. You'll recall the 2018 elections were so bad that NBA staff got arrested. What do you say about this atmosphere that's so tense at this point, and the kind of elections that are about to be held on, I believe, July 24th and 25th?
Elections in Nigeria have always been a touchy issue to everybody. And as I said, depending on which divide you are, which political party you are, if, for instance, you find the judgment of a Supreme Court says, oh, PDP has won this place, the next thing APC will say the judges have been bribed or something. Like, also, if APC wins in court, the PDP will say, oh, the system has been destroyed, ABCD. So election matter in Nigeria is something that the average Nigerian voter takes to heart seriously. Takes to heart seriously in the sense that because it's a do-or-die matter in Nigeria, they too take up the attitude of a do-or-die matter in election voting. I agree with you that elections in Nigeria have always been full of malpractices. It's difficult to eradicate it. Maybe when the new law says, okay, there should be electronic voting, maybe, but we know Nigerians now are hacking so much into many accounts in the United States, stealing a lot of dollars, millions of dollars. So it will be easy also for the cyber of INEC to be, you know, dipped into by any all those small boys in Nigeria. They are very good hackers. So one party will only, you know, employ one of those hackers and ask him to hack into the system of INEC, and thereby, again, we try to, and electronic rigging is something that it will be hard to prove. It's easy to prove now that we are physically seeing the ballot papers, but when it comes to electoral voting, it will be difficult to know which of the system was really hacked. So what I will say is that, well, elections, we are seeing that only 2 states now. Can you imagine when the whole 36 states are having election the same day? So it is neither here or there that people are making these allegations. They are the usual allegations Nigerian voters make. Okay,
so just to correct the notion, all the small boys too are computer programmers that are putting Nigeria on the world map and doing quite well, you know, with their computer skills. Yeah. I just wanted to set that out there. Real quickly, sir, I want to talk about lawyers and frivolous cases. That's a point that has been raised over and over and over again. Where do we draw the line?
What is that?
Lawyers,
I can't hear that.
Lawyers
I can't hear that aspect well.
Lawyers and frivolous cases, very frivolous cases. I'll give you an instance. Some top lawyers had to be fined millions of naira in this country for bringing a certain, you know, appeal to the Electoral Petition Tribunal after that case was concluded for a while. And these were top lawyers, SANs in this country.
Now, let me be honest with you. There is nothing like frivolous application under the law. So any lawyer that brings an application must root it under an order of the court, the section of the law, so that no lawyer brings a frivolous application. But many, many lawyers use the technicality of the law to stalemate, you know, trials. And that is the duty of a lawyer. Look, the late F.R.A. Williams and Fani Kayode were the best, you know, lawyers in procedure.
Okay, sir, we'll quickly go for a quick break. We'll come back to you. You'll finish your thoughts on that. We'll go for a quick break. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome back to the Rise News channel this morning. We still have Chief Robert Clarke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Sir, I was talking about frivolous cases brought forward by some lawyers, and I cited the instance of after the Imo Supreme Court ruling, there were lots and lots of cases brought in by lawyers, and at some point, one of the judges had to say, this is frivolous, and she went ahead to fine the lawyers handling those cases. So you were trying to comment on that before we went on that break, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Hello, are you hearing me too?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Frivolous applications normally can arise. I don't say it does not. But you see, no matter how you treat or do any frivolous application, the judge will not be swayed by it, but it's a tactic some unscrupulous lawyers use, and I don't believe in it. But let me tell you one thing. I had the opportunity of being a junior to late F.R.A. Williams and late Fani Kayode. They taught me one thing on civil procedures. They said a lawyer wins or loses his case on the pleadings. So the good lawyer will first read the pleadings. And if he finds that there is something in it that he can use as a preliminary objection, he brings it forward immediately, even though Pleading says that you must, all the facts you want to use in a trial must be exhibited in your pleading. But Fanikadi taught me, he says, in preparing your pleadings, the facts, you can hide the facts so that the other party will not reasonably see it. So part of the procedure we lawyers have is that we have to raise preliminary objections. We have to raise many things in a trial. And I don't want people to perceive it as, a technical process. I can assure you, for instance, I got a text message from one of the crime busters in the federal government when I was handling a case for one of the judges, and he told me that he has lost respect for me because I'm using technicalities in the court to free judges who have been charged for crime. I just looked at him. I never replied that text message, but I know he's a stupid man to have even had the guts to send me such a... So you see, technical methods that we lawyers use is what the Yoruba say, what the old man uses in chopping is hidden in his hand. So what we use all these technical points for is to gain advantage, and it's part of practice. So it is, people may regard it as sharp practice, but the law, because let me be honest with you, any lawyer that is not streetwise cannot go far in this profession. A good lawyer must be streetwise. So you don't think that every application is frivolous.
Well, Chief Clerk, two quick questions. The first is about the democratic dispensation. Some people have said that the reason the bar has become very docile is not necessarily because Paul Usoro, SAN, has issues with the current administration, but because lawyers have also more or less become like politicians. They handle post-election cases, and that has compromised the integrity of the bar. That's one. The second, also a question about the concern of young lawyers who are saying that there should be a uniform fee charging protocol for lawyers. Or the SANs tend to make all the money, and if you are a young lawyer, you can't charge as much as an SAN. Whereas in some other professions, like the Institute of Surveyors, for example, there is a uniform fee charging system that lawyers don't have, whereby the INABA makes all the money and young lawyers are not necessarily as lucky.
Well, let me be honest. As I tell my colleagues, election period is a harvest time for lawyers because lawyers make a lot of money during, elections and tribunals. That is their harvest period, and you cannot blame them. But there are certain lawyers who are now becoming politicians. We have seen top lawyers who have been contesting for gubernatorial seats and who have become even governors in states, who have been practicing, and they made a lot of money because I have always said it is the fault of the politicians. When a lawyer knows that a gubernatorial candidate who is a sitting governor is in charge of security votes that is, unaccountable for, the lawyer, charges him not on the basis of the merit of his case, but on the basis that his pocket is large enough, to pay his fees. So the fees during election time and for tribunal is dictated by the amount of money the litigants have in their pocket. So you can't blame lawyers. If I know you have stolen money and you want to employ me, if I have a way out for you, knowing fully well that you have not stolen, then I will ask you to, pay me high fees. Now, for the junior lawyers who feel these things, they have their time. You see, in every profession, there is a class. Let's be honest about it. If you are a doctor rises from being a resident doctor to being a consultant to being a professor. They too have their hierarchy. So a young doctor coming into the profession cannot be querying the amount of money a professor is making. Every profession has its own cadre of steps you have to take.
Other professions, you have associates, you have membership, and you just have to know that in the legal profession, you have to pay your dues. What I will advise the young lawyers is that they should pay their dues, and their dues maybe for 10 years. A young lawyer, after 10 years, is good enough to be a judge, and so, his fees also should go up.
Thank you, sir. Now, I want to ask you about a topical issue. In the wake of the murder of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, that renaissance of black pride, and black people everywhere, all over the world, looking to remove all vestiges of colonialism, why do Nigerian lawyers and judges still wear wigs? What do you think of that practice? Should it continue? Or do we throw the wigs out now as we're throwing out statues and wanting to rename streets?
Yeah.
I am happy you have raised this point. I think in the whole of Africa, the Black Lives Matter, it's only in Nigeria we didn't see any placard going. In Namibia, in South Africa, in Morocco, society, the civil society is there, raised placards. It's only in Nigeria I didn't see it. And I wonder what is happening to all our human rights advocates in Nigeria, civil liberty, something. None of them raised it. It's very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. I agree with the doctrine of Black Lives Matter, and I would have loved that many Nigerian associations, the civil liberties, the trade unions, should have carried placards. But it's unfortunate, only Nigeria, out of all the states in Africa, never carried a placard.
Should we keep those wigs, those horsehair wigs, or should we get rid of them?
What?
The horsehair wigs that lawyers and judges wear. Oh, we've run out of time. Oh, okay. Just very quickly, sir. The horsehair wigs that lawyers wear, should we keep them, or are they a relic of colonialism?
Yeah. Look, there are two ways to answer this question. From the older members of the bar, for instance, for me, I believe the wig makes the lawyer. And you see, when the respectability you attach to a court as a layman, when you enter the court and you see the judges and lawyers robed, it creates a sort of fear in your mind. But that is an old talk. But the younger lawyers too. But I know that if they have the intention that wigs and collars should be banned, by the time they are putting about 10 years at the bar and they are becoming seniors too, may not want to, throw away the wig and the gown. So I believe the wig, that's what most, in America today, there are no wigs, but judges wear the gown. In England, it is still the practice. In Ghana, it is the practice. In South Africa, it is the practice. So it depends, again, as I said, which divide you are.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. Thank you very much, Sam. And I hope those lawyers who insist on wearing tattered wigs and gowns, will know that that doesn't necessarily make a statement.